Thank you. Mr. O'Mara?
Morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
How are you? As a sort of a parent, this is very limited. First time we'll talk to you is just going to be about what we call pretrial publicity, what you brought to the courtroom about the facts of the case or your thoughts about it. So we're going to be limited to just that. And it sounds as though you have a strong opinion about the media, which is to regard them with skepticism.
Skepticism, politics, skepticism, because you never get all the information. There's no possible any way that you can get all the information without it being leaned, skewed one way or the other.
How do you handle that when you do seek to get news?
I really don't.
Okay.
I let my husband deal with that.
All
That's
right.
his deal.
Okay. Are there any sources that you look towards to get information about a subject that you want to find out about?
Probably Safari.
Just
Google.
a Google search.
And normally it's about animals of some sort or another.
Sounds like you have a number of them.
I have too many.
Too many. At least one parrot.
One parrot, one crow with one wing. He's like 15. I volunteered for rescue groups, bird, cat, and you wind up with animals.
Okay. How many altogether?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I have 3 dogs,
All right.
4 cats, and a couple lizards. I just rescued a lizard like a month ago.
Okay. Your service on this jury could run several weeks were you to be selected.
Yes, sir.
You got that, I think, from the questionnaire.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a chance that you would be sequestered, meaning that you will not be spending time at the house, but rather with the rest of the jury.
Mm-hmm.
How would that affect your household duties with the animals and everything else that you do at your house?
My husband already said that he would do it all. But I do have 2 daughters that would be backup.
Okay. So that part of it would be covered if you had to spend several weeks with us.
Yes, sir.
Anything else that we haven't talked about or that you didn't mention on the question talking about hardship? Anything else that you have going on that would affect your ability to deal with this case where you're asked to do it for several weeks?
Well, the hardship would be my boss's hardship for me not being there. But I'm not sure that's a hardship.
Okay.
I mean, it's dealable.
If you weren't there, he's got to deal with the fact that you're not there.
Right.
You would certainly have a job to go back to.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But he wouldn't like it.
And, okay. Are your family finances such that it would not cause a hardship that you couldn't get past were you to spend those several weeks with us?
No, because I'd be paid.
You'd be paid through your work?
Mm-hmm.
You had mentioned that your knowledge of the case was just sort of early on, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And more of a broad spectrum of names.
Mm-hmm.
If I asked you to tell me the most significant issue or fact about this case that you remember, what would it be?
Just that there was a death.
Do you remember who it was who passed away?
It was Trayvon Martin.
Okay. Describe him.
He was a boy of color, and I believe teenage years, older teenage, I believe. I don't even know how old he was.
Okay. And obviously shot by Mr. Zimmerman.
Yes, sir.
What do you remember hearing about Mr. Zimmerman back there in the beginning of it?
I just heard that he was involved in a scuffle. It was late at night, and the boy was killed.
Anything about those few facts that you had heard about that, tell me what you thought about that.
I thought it was very unfortunate that somebody died, but that's why you have a jury, and that's why you have a trial, to prove innocent or guilt. It's just very sad.
And then you mentioned some concerns about the way it was responded to in the community. Is that correct?
Well, in the media.
Did you have concerns about the picketing or what was sort of happening as a response to Trayvon Martin's passing?
Not really concerns, because I'm not involved in any of it. And Sanford is kind of away from Oviedo, Winter Springs. I mean, I knew there was rioting, but I guess they had it pretty well organized.
You don't spend much time, you mentioned safari, but you don't spend much time what people now call surfing the internet, just to see what's out there?
I don't have time.
Okay.
I really don't.
So when you go on the internet, it's for a particular purpose?
I'm looking for a recipe, or I'm looking for something.
Okay.
No need, no news.
Have you ever gone to any of the websites, or any websites that are specific to this case?
No, sir.
There are petition websites and things like that. Have you ever signed a petition regarding this case?
No, sir.
Ever looked at any of that information on the internet?
No, sir.
You said that you have a couple of daughters?
I have 2 daughters.
Okay. Their ages?
24 and 27.
Do they live nearby you?
One lives with us, and one lives just a little ways away. 10 minutes away.
Have you discussed this case, or even generally, with your husband?
I have not.
Not at all?
No.
Even when it was early on, when you were talking about some of the reactions to it, was that ever a point of conversation?
No, sir.
Any other people in the neighborhood, or your daughters?
No, sir. There was the other day at work, somebody came in, said that the trial was going to begin, and that pretty much was it, because I got busy with something else.
You did mention at one point that you thought you heard that your default national program is the Today Show.
Yes, sir.
Did you say that you saw something about this case on the Today Show?
At the very, very beginning when it happened.
And do you recall what it was that you saw?
It was just it wasn't even an interview. It was just a news flash saying that there was a death and there was rioting in Sanford.
Okay. Primary concern that we have when we talk about what you bring is if we don't talk much about it now and something comes up later,
yes, sir.
That which comes up later could affect how you look at the case or how you act as a juror.
Yes, sir.
So it sounds as though you've kept yourself, just the way you live your life, pretty isolated from this event. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
And that you don't have any thoughts in mind or predispositions about what happened that night?
No, sir.
Let's say that something came up. Mr. Dorianda, I think, approached this. Something came up where you did remember something. Remember something about the rally, or something about a conversation you had with a neighbor that we didn't talk about here today, but now you're sitting on the jury. How would you handle any conflict between that memory and the evidence that you hear in this courtroom?
Well, the evidence that I hear in the courtroom, I would presume to be true. If I had a conversation with someone else that I remembered, the facts are maybe not the facts.
Mm-hmm. If, let's say that another juror did the same thing while you were deliberating with that juror. You know how the process works? Take evidence, you listen to the judge, you find out what the law is, and then you'll go back and the jury will decide what happens.
Yes, sir.
No, I'm sorry, decide their verdict.
Right.
In that context, what if another juror talks to you and says, well, I heard about something else that I didn't hear in the courtroom. I remember I saw this on TV or read it on the radio, read it on the newspaper or heard it on the radio, and I think this happened, even though it never came from a witness here. How would you react to that?
I would say it was media hype. I mean, you can't prove anything that you heard prior to this case.
One of the instructions that you're going to be told by the judge is that you have to decide only on the facts that you hear, competent evidence in this courtroom.
Yes, sir.
And that while we won't ask you to leave your common sense at the door, we actually want you to use your common sense. We can't let you bring outside evidence or knowledge or information inside. So would you be able to advise another juror it doesn't come from a witness stand, it doesn't get considered?
Yes, sir.
Though you have not talked much with your other family members, have your daughters or your husband just sort of downloaded on you their thoughts about the case?
No, sir.
No conversations at all?
None.
The judge is going to instruct you for you to be on the jury. Not only is there a chance that you might be sequestered, but either way, that you cannot discuss this case with anybody during the time of your service.
Yes, sir.
Going to be able to do that?
Yes, sir.
Even if your husband says, you know, I think this about that.
No, my husband would be totally opposite. He would, no, I can't talk to you.
So he's not going to be the problem then.
Yeah, he even told me last night, he said, do not watch the news. You're not allowed to watch the news.
Okay.
I'm like, okay. So now he told me this morning that he'll tape the Today Show. I can watch it when I get home, but he'll have already edited it.
Great. So he's going to be an
I think
advocate.
it's a little over and beyond, but I'm saying
Sounds
I just
like-
won't watch the Today Show.
Sounds like he's willing to be an advocate on the court's behalf to make sure that you don't see anything you're not supposed to see.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If other people that you've spoken to about this case, friends or family, do you know whether or not they've made or have any opinion about the case?
I really haven't talked to anybody about the case.
And if I asked you for just a raw number of times that you've heard since what was the first thing you heard about this case?
On the Today Show.
Okay, that was it.
Uh-huh.
From that point all the way forward through today, if I asked you just total of how many times you've talked to anybody about it, added to the number of times that you've seen anything about it in the media, I include reading, internet, TV, radio.
The only thing I would have heard about the media, are blurbs about, popping in and popping out.
Okay.
And normally I'm half listening to that anyway.
So a gross number of inputs that came to you from people or media. How many do you think?
I have no idea.
Okay. Nothing, however, to really have any impact or influence on you?
No, sir.
Great, thanks for the time.
You're welcome.
Stacy, to please, when council's ready, please come forward.